What happens when a fragile economy collides with poverty, broken infrastructure, and states hooked on federal lifelines? You get collapse, and it won't hit evenly. Some states are already on the edge, just waiting for one national downturn to shove them over. Today, we're counting down the 10 U.S. states most likely to crumble first if the economy crashes. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just a hard look at the places built on shaky budgets, dying industries, and empty promises. If you think your state is safe, think again. Number 10. Alaska. The trouble with Alaska is that it's built on a single, fragile pillar: oil. Over 85% of the state's unrestricted revenue comes from oil and gas royalties, taxes, and related industries. That means every single dip in global crude prices slices directly into its budget like a hunting knife. Now here's the kicker. Production has been in long-term decline since the late 1980s. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline once moved over 2 million barrels a day. Today, it limps along at less than 500,000. You don't have to be an economist to see the danger. Shrinking volume plus volatile prices equals a shrinking future. And Alaska doesn't have a diverse safety net. Nearly a third of its GDP comes from government spending, much of it federal. Without Washington pumping cash north, schools, troopers, and road crews don't run. And rural Alaskans? Many of them depend on costly fuel shipments flown or barged in. If subsidies dry up, basic heating becomes unaffordable. Add in the fact that climate change is melting permafrost under homes and infrastructure, creating billions in new costs, and you've got a state teetering on collapse. If the national economy crashes and federal aid dries up, Alaska's not just hurting, it's facing a full-on freeze-out. Number 9. Louisiana. Louisiana looks fun on the outside. Mardi Gras beads, gumbo, and jazz pouring through Bourbon Street, but its economic skeleton is brittle. Over 18% of the population lives below the poverty line, one of the highest rates in the country. And unlike other states, Louisiana doesn't just suffer from poverty, it's also hammered by disasters, hurricanes, floods, industrial explosions that drain budgets and drive insurance premiums through the roof. The state's lifeline is oil and gas, which makes up nearly a quarter of total GDP. But energy jobs swing wildly with global prices, and every downturn leaves parishes littered with bankruptcies and pink slips. The brain drain is brutal. College graduates flee for Texas or Georgia, leaving behind an older, poorer, less skilled workforce. Infrastructure is another Achilles heel. The state has over 1,600 structurally deficient bridges, some of the worst roads in the country, and levees that require constant, expensive upkeep. If a major national crash hits, federal recovery money dries up, and demand for oil tanks, Louisiana will look less like the boot and more like a sinkhole, where whole communities disappear into debt and despair. Number 8. Michigan. Michigan never truly recovered from the 2008 crash, it just papered over the holes. Sure, Detroit's downtown has seen some revitalization, but zoom out to Flint, Pontiac, or Saginaw, and you'll see boarded-up houses, collapsing schools, and neighborhoods where entire blocks look abandoned. Nearly 40% of residents are in financial distress, juggling overdue bills, credit card debt, and bankruptcies. The economy is still tied to the auto industry, and that's dangerous. Ford, GM, and Stellantis cut production or face strikes, and suddenly tens of thousands of jobs are gone. Add in EV disruption, where China is racing ahead with cheaper batteries, and Michigan's entire economic engine starts sputtering. Let's not forget water. Flint's crisis wasn't unique, it was just famous. Dozens of communities deal with lead pipes and crumbling water systems. The pension system is underfunded, local governments are broke, and property taxes are too high to attract new businesses. When the next recession hits, Michigan won't just struggle, it will flash back to the collapse of 2008, only this time with even fewer lifelines. Number 7. Mississippi. If poverty had a capital in America, it would be Mississippi. The median household income here is the lowest in the nation, hovering around $52,000 compared to the national median of $75,000. Nearly 25% of Mississippians live below the poverty line, with rural counties closer to 35%. Labor force participation is abysmal. Only about 55% of working-age adults are actually employed, and the jobs that exist often pay minimum wage or close to it. Infrastructure is crumbling. Over 900 bridges are closed or weight-restricted, and the capital city of Jackson saw its water system fail completely in 2022, leaving residents boiling water for weeks. Healthcare? More than 12 rural hospitals have closed in the past decade, and Mississippi ranks dead last in obesity, diabetes, and infant mortality. This isn't just poverty. It's structural collapse already in motion. If a national recession cuts off federal funding, Mississippi has no backup. With almost no private investment, a vanishing young workforce, and zero industries positioned for the future, the Magnolia State would unravel faster than any other. Number 6. Illinois. Illinois looks rich on the surface. Chicago's skyline screams prosperity, global companies call it home, and farmland stretches across the state. But underneath, the numbers are terrifying. Illinois has over $210 billion in unfunded pension liabilities, the worst in the nation. That's not just a problem, it's an existential threat. To keep paying retirees, the state keeps hiking property taxes, already among the highest in the country. Families are fleeing in droves. Illinois has lost population 10 years straight, with hundreds of thousands packing up and moving to Florida, Texas, and Arizona. Meanwhile, Chicago bleeds money into failing schools, struggling public transit, and violence that makes entire neighborhoods unlivable. Infrastructure is outdated, roads crumble, and public debt piles higher. And it's not just state pensions. The city of Chicago itself is drowning in debt, with its own pension hole nearing $48 billion. If the economy tanks, tax revenue collapses, and Illinois won't just wobble. It will implode. Public workers might not get paid, retirees could lose their checks, and residents already fleeing will stampede for the exits. A recession here isn't just a hiccup. It's the trigger that could topple one of the Midwest's economic giants. Number 5. Arkansas. Arkansas rarely makes national headlines, but that's part of the danger. It's quietly one of the weakest links in the American economy. Nearly 18% of its residents live in poverty, and in many rural counties, that number spikes even higher. The jobs that do exist are overwhelmingly low wage. Agriculture, retail, poultry processing, and basic manufacturing. That's not a workforce built for resilience. It's a paycheck-to-paycheck survival economy. Healthcare access? Dire. More than 40% of rural hospitals in the state are at risk of closing, and residents often travel hours just to see a doctor. Broadband is still a luxury in parts of Arkansas, meaning students and workers are cut off from opportunities the rest of the country takes for granted. While the northwest corner has Walmart's headquarters and a handful of stable jobs, the rest of the state is left behind, running on federal programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and rural subsidies. Strip away that federal support in a national downturn, and entire counties would be left without functioning healthcare, infrastructure, or basic services. In short, Arkansas is living on borrowed time, and a recession would call the loan. Number 4. Nevada. Nevada is a high roller's paradise built on a house of cards. Over a quarter of the workforce depends on hospitality, entertainment, and tourism, industries that evaporate the moment Americans tighten their wallets. Remember 2008? Nevada led the nation in foreclosures, with 67% of homeowners underwater on their mortgages. The state's tax system makes it even riskier. There's no income tax, so Nevada relies heavily on sales and gaming revenue to fund schools, hospitals, and police. When people stop gambling, the state budget doesn't just shrink, it collapses. Add to that the water crisis. The Colorado River system is drying up, and Nevada's main lifeline, Lake Mead, is hovering at historic lows. Las Vegas might look unstoppable with its flashing lights and endless construction, but without water and steady tourism, it turns into a ghost town fast. A national recession would be brutal here. Casinos closing, hotels shuttered, layoffs in the tens of thousands, and a government unable to backstop the freefall. In Nevada, prosperity isn't built, it's rented, and the lease runs out the moment the economy stumbles. Number 3. Kentucky. Kentucky lives in the shadows of stronger neighbors, and when trouble comes, it doesn't just falter, it faceplants. Nearly 22% of Kentuckians live below the poverty line, and many rural communities haven't seen meaningful new industry in decades. The decline of coal hit this state like a sledgehammer, and unlike West Virginia, it didn't even get national sympathy, it just got left behind. The opioid epidemic made things worse, with overdose rates among the highest in the country. Rural hospitals are closing at alarming rates, public schools are crumbling, and the workforce isn't being trained for modern industries. Louisville and Lexington can't carry the whole state forever, especially when manufacturing jobs are disappearing overseas or being automated. And then there's infrastructure. More than 1,100 bridges are structurally deficient, and water systems in some counties are so outdated they can't pass federal safety standards. If the national economy tanks, Kentucky will be among the first to collapse. The safety nets here are paper thin, and the state's dependency on federal aid means one budget cut in Washington could leave entire counties stranded in the 1950s. Number 2. Alabama. Alabama has grit, no doubt, but grit doesn't pay bills when the bottom falls out. Nearly 17% of the population lives in poverty, and wages lag decades behind cost of living growth. Broadband access is still missing for hundreds of thousands, leaving rural areas isolated in an increasingly digital economy. Healthcare? A disaster waiting to happen. Alabama has lost 17 rural hospitals since 2005, and over half of the remaining ones are operating at a loss. That's in a state with some of the highest rates of obesity, diabetes, and stroke in the nation. The economy relies heavily on federal aid programs, from agriculture subsidies to Medicaid, and on industries that are highly sensitive to global demand, like automotive and aerospace manufacturing. One downturn in global trade, and Alabama sees thousands of layoffs. Add in an education system that ranks near the bottom nationally, and you've got no pipeline for future workers to pull the state out of the mud. When the next recession hits, Alabama won't have much to cushion the fall. It'll just hit the ground hard, and the recovery could take decades. Number 1. West Virginia. If you want to see America's economic canary in the coal mine, look no further than West Virginia. Once powered by coal, the state has been in a slow-motion collapse for decades. Coal jobs are down over 70% since the 1980s, and nothing has come in to replace them. Nearly 1/3 of the state budget relies on federal aid, and without it, schools, hospitals, and basic infrastructure would collapse. Workforce participation is the lowest in the nation. Only 55% of working-age adults are employed, and many who aren't have simply given up looking. Healthcare is beyond grim. West Virginia leads the nation in overdose deaths and ranks at or near the bottom for heart disease, obesity, and diabetes outcomes. Rural hospitals are vanishing, and even basic services like running water or broadband aren't reliable in many areas. Young people leave as soon as they can, creating a vicious cycle of brain drain and shrinking tax revenue. And here's the terrifying part. West Virginia isn't waiting for a recession to collapse. It's already collapsing in slow motion. The next national downturn won't just hurt, it will finish the job, turning large swaths of the state into economic wastelands. If you want a picture of what collapse looks like in America, West Virginia is already living it. And there you have it. 10 states sitting on the edge of collapse, just waiting for the next economic downturn to push them over. Some are already crumbling, others are barely hanging on, but the truth is clear. When the U.S. economy stumbles, these states will fall first and hardest. The real question is, what happens after? Do they rebuild? Or do they become warning signs for the rest of the country? If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video so more people see what's really going on beneath the surface. Drop a comment below. What state do you think is most at risk and why? Stay alert, stay prepared, and as always, thanks for watching.